All right, it's 10 o'clock. Okay. All right. We've got good morning, everybody. We got Tara Rathman here to help us go through the MRRA or Compliance Credit Supervision Abatement training. And so I think, as we talked about, let's just keep it informal. This training, how long did this training take last time, Tara? Was like,
Took almost 2 hours, I think, but we did all of the examples and went into detail on a lot of the chapters that we kind of scrapped a little bit this time since it's.
Yeah. So we've got time for it. That's no problem. Before we go into that, I know that there was a couple questions. I know Trish had a specific question. I don't see her on here yet, but I can circle back with her. There she is. So there's two things I want to follow up with from yesterday. I spent about an hour with the commissioner, one deputy commissioner, and Kelly A.C. Mitchell. We talked about eliminating fees. So I think where we landed on with that is it is still a requirement and still in the law that we have to explain how it is that we're going to eliminate fees in our comp plans. And so, I mean, we can continue to have the conversation, but I mean, that's kind of the bottom line. So I don't know how increasing fees is congruent with that. And who knows? They're probably right. You know what I mean? Like if in 2029 or whatever next year, maybe they'll just eliminate it altogether and then we can reevaluate. So as long as your plan has a plan to eliminate fees, that's what you have to explain in your comp plan. So, okay, so I started off with the kind of not great news. What I did talk about a little bit more was I think the concerns with everybody if the funding formula doesn't have a mechanism to keep up with inflation, how are we going to put this on the backs of counties? And for fiscal year and beyond, we had a good conversation and like, right. And I think Brian pointed it out, like this commissioners are going to be here forever. So an agreement that I make today isn't necessarily going to be there tomorrow, but it is my intention and I've got, I think what I can say is that for fiscal year 27 and beyond, our intention is not to increase the costs for counties. And so, and I think that we need to take some time to figure out how it is that we're going to do that, but I've got some backing to be able to figure it out, do that. Now, I think that's going to be, it's not like going to be perfectly level. So for example, if you've got a district that has primarily younger agents that maybe make less money, I'm just trying to think of how that would work. Like, is our fees going to go, are going to be like, excuse me, are our costs going to be a little bit less for those as opposed to like a across the board reduction in however we're going to do it. So we'll have to figure out the nuances of that, but the intention is to not increase costs. Brian.
And here I am.
What's that?
And here I am with the question.
Here you are. I'm probably not going to be able to answer.
And this is nothing about your position or where you're at, Carter.
Mm-hmm.
It feels really good to be able to say our intention is not to increase, but the proof comes into the pudding with these commissioners. That only gives us what the intention is, yet the trust with the state level right now on county levels it's like eroded. And so when do we strategically know we are not going to increase and we are going to fund this? Because coming July 1st, we have a 1.75% increase. And what on the flip side of that, for our younger folks get step increases and the COLA. And so you have those two pieces coming about where sometimes the more senior staff actually cost less because they don't have those two bumps throughout the year.
That's already built in. They're not getting the increase that's already there.
Yeah. Yep. And so that would be my question to Kelly Mitchell is when are we going to get there? Because like all this stuff is in motion to start happening come July. And that's only 3 months away, you know? And I know I'm putting you on the spot and that's I'm not trying to do that, but these folks here are the ones that I'm going to have a real hard time saying, well, we don't have the intention to increase, and they still can't make a decision on that.
And I would add on to that though, Brian, is that it's not July that we need to know by, it's like May. So it's not 3 months.
Know earlier. This isn't going to take a ton of time to be able to budget for fiscal year 20. The way that we have it set up now, we're not going to have a repeat of last year. And I've already asked, I just finished the meeting and asked, now that I have a clear direction, that our finance give us that number of what that increase is. So like overall.
The other thing I would say too, Carter, is when you talk about supervision fees, our CCA agencies are charging the whole ball of wax, and that's where Beltrami's coming from. Like, so they can't charge the whole ball of wax, so to speak.
They also have to articulate how they're going to sunset those fees.
So you can articulate how to sunset them while you're still collecting them, right?
There it is.
And that's kind of my point, that I don't know how to bring that back to them to say, no. And then if they don't sunset and we still, you know what I mean? Like there's all of these variables in there. And so I think it's a little unfair to say you're going to charge them all the fees, but they can't collect what they're legislatively should be able to collect, even though they can still put a plan in place to sunset them when they have to. You know what I mean? That's what's going to happen for me.
Yep, as long as you can articulate how it is that you're going to sunset the fees. I mean, that's got to be in there, and they have to understand that that's part of.
So am I hearing you say that I can collect on felonies as long as I put a plan in to sunset them?
I think let's talk further, because I think we need to vet this back and forth, because I don't want to do something that's.
No, I get it.
There's
a lot of details there.
Well, and like the commissioner's intention at the onset was that all fees are going to be gone. And so I don't think
I hope that's true. I really do. But I just think right now it's about other counties are collecting and our DSC counties.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I understand.
No, I agree with you. In principle, I think fees should go away too.
Yeah.
You know, what's interesting on that too, Carter, is I could see almost like a negotiation where the commissioner will have power to say unsupervised releasees, et cetera. But
what do you mean?
Well, no, I'm saying that wrong, because those are our clients already. Do our SR clients pay any supervision fees?
Well, they wouldn't now.
Well, usually they're charged the probation.
Usually in the beginning, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Do our ISR clients pay supervision fees? Or did they, I mean?
I think they must have, because I know Karen did.
Yeah, SR and ISR used to pay. So I could see the commissioner saying, okay, well, SRs and ISRs, counties will not be collecting, but probation, that's up to you what you do with on those.
But if you're a CCA, why wouldn't you say, well, then you take supervision?
Yeah, well, that's just it. Yeah.
Well,
there's a whole bunch of issues.
Yeah.
That is, I'm hearing that more and more right now. So it's
of ISR.
Oh, supervision of ISR. No, I meant like just overall, like total. Dale.
Going back to your comment there about not increasing fees, and then you talked about, staff longevity in combination with that, newer staff and stuff. Are you saying that the intent would be to not increase fees to include, agent salary increase? Is that what you're saying? Or are you saying that
I
that is
think I think the intention is to, I'm gonna do the best I can. I'm just gonna,
Okay,
I'm
that sounds
working
good.
on it every day. And,
Okay.
if we can not put in, if we can not assess the 1.5 plus the increases in, fringe, I think that's probably where we'll end up. And I need to have a mechanism to do that equitably
Mhm.
and in the way that we're accounting for things now. And I get some ideas of how we can do that. We've talked about it before, but I don't want to like say this is absolutely going to happen and then we lay it out and it's like, oh, that's
Yeah.
a little different.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a good thing. Like this is good news. So, right. So
Can I share with the group what's happening with us real quick?
sure,
Or do you want us to wait? I thought
that's fine.
it would have come up yesterday, but yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully. Well, so Becker County, some folks have probably seen it in the paper. After we had our transparent chat with our commissioners and administrator, they've elected to start a wage study to see what the cost would be for potential switch or stay. So we're like, this would be considered like the first DOC contract to be going through this now. And they even said it on open forum in the commissioner meeting that they keep getting approached by commissioners across the state and at AMC, et cetera. And it's not a good position to be in. And I never thought that we would be getting it to this point here in Becker. But it's not necessarily about anything that we are doing as in the state. It's all about the money. And it doesn't feel good because we've already been through that whole shit show in Otter Tail. But the only positive with this one is they are just unbelievably impressed with all the services that we're providing. But as they say it, it's more of a bigger picture than what we do. And they said repeatedly, it's, they want to be able to make those decisions too, like these other counties have. And that's tough to hear. So just a heads up, folks, I'm not trying to sound an alarm, but none of us are immune to this. And it just, I don't know, it's not a good feeling.
Yeah, I think
So-
all counties are struggling financially and all counties are looking
Yes.
for, they're looking for couch cushion money now,
Yeah.
and I'm, just, we're hearing that CCA counties are looking at going to DOC contract too. So they're the ones that are seriously looking at, but I think it's the same, it's in that same vein. It's like, what can we do? Let's look at every direction that we can. And we need to have really good answers. And so that's why I want to accelerate some of these, even these little PowerPoints that we can arm you with. Like, this is what we do. This is how you, this is what you pay for. This is what you don't pay for. And I've got the transition PowerPoint. I've done it once now. And I'm willing to go any and everywhere. And I think that we should get out in front of those as much as possible, at least having those conversations. So I'm not reading the chats here. I apologize. I've got too many screens up. I'm getting ready for training. So
Carter, the question is, did you say there are CCA counties looking to go DOC contract?
yes.
Can we know?
No, I don't know. I wouldn't, I don't even know. So it's,
Oh,
I
you
don't-
haven't been told who they are?
No,
Oh,
no, but but it's not just rumor. So anyway.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else with that? Otherwise, I would just urge you to like, I'm willing to drive to, and Deb and Sarah, we're all willing to drive to the four corners of the earth to have these
Right.
conversations to support you. You don't need to do this on your own. And we've got some of the information. I'd love to have more about what does FS admin do? What do we get with our research and development? Those sorts of things to be able to have at our fingertips to really make that argument that you're getting a lot of things that you're not paying for, and it takes a lot to run a department. It's not just a matter of saving $40,000 in management admin costs and laying it on the backs of one person who's supposed to run this whole department. It's not easy to do. So anyway, that's all right. Anything else with that? Otherwise, give me a call anytime, chat, whatever. Okay, so we're going to run through this earned compliance credit supervision abatement training. We've done it once before. Welcome, Tara. Thank you for your time. I'm going to share my screen here. So the goal of the training is teach what and why of the earned compliance credit supervision abatement, the eligibility, earning the credits, transition to abatement. Tara's going to handle more of the nuts and bolts of the violations while on abatement. What does it look like? And then we'll introduce you to the policy. You've already been introduced to the policy, but we're going to use the handbooks. If you've got the handbook, does anybody not have the handbook? I was like, if somebody can drop it, I can, but I don't take time. Just drop it in the chat.
Do you want the ones with the
Please.
edits dropped in there that you sent to me or not? Either way.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Because these are some edits that we were just like kind of considering. So before September 1st and when the official policy turns from a pilot to an actual policy, this is just kind of full of some notes of changes that we would make. So we're going to use that handbook as a backdrop for this training. So here's the what and the why of the earned compliance credit supervision abatement. So once released to the community supervision, eligible persons can reduce their active community supervision through a period of meaningful engagement in their case plan to include appropriate programming and cognitive behavioral interventions. So that a credit is 1 month of supervision abatement for every 2 months of earning that 1 month credit over a 2-month demonstration period. The agent will verify the earned compliance credit eligibility start dates in CSTS prior to making any modifications to earned credits. So how this works is we kind of went back and forth on this. Excuse me. The caseworkers will do an initial review and put it in the miscellaneous section before they send out the request for agent assignment. It will be in the miscellaneous section that it's been screened. It appears that this person is eligible. I would suggest the supervisor and the agent just do a double check and just make sure, yep, meets these criteria. And then how it works, excuse me, in CSTS is the case service needs to be changed, and Jenna or Melissa's on it. I didn't even see if you want to make a comment, but it's basically that all the case service is mirrors all the other supervised release case services, but it'll be ECC and then whatever that case service is. And so when the OAS or OAS senior puts the case service at that ECC, it will activate that module that will help the agent both remember when to do a 2-month demonstration review, and then it'll keep track of when it is time to go on abatement, abatement status, so it kind of keeps track of all that stuff. It'll generate reports, legislative reporting, those sorts of things. So Tessa?
How will the OAS know that they meet that requirement? Like,
When they're setting it up, that communication is going to have to happen. Like, this is
From
a
who?
supervision abatement, the agent or the supervisor,
okay,
or I apologize. They could also, we also added a checkbox on the
Agent assignment request.
the acceptance thing. Thank you, Dale. That says they are eligible, so they can catch it there too. Jen put something in there that I can't. It's Yeah.
Sorry, I just added
Okay.
the instructions
yeah.
for the
Thanks.
process and the codes that are assigned to those. So my understanding is that there is some comments that do come from on the release plan, and then also, as Dale mentioned, there's the checkbox when they accept in acceptance. That will also be merged in CSTS. So that's kind of there, and hopefully communication from the agent to the OAS that.
Yep. Yeah, so they can catch it any one of those ways. Deb?
So I had a support staff ask me today is when they get the investigation, do they just put it in as investigation status for supervised release, and then when they get out, change it, or do they do it on the front end as part of the investigation? Because things can change from the time the plan comes to the time they get out. It could change to just regular supervised release. So they're just wondering, do they add the ECC for right away, or at an investigation stage, or after?
I would. I'm like, I don't know. Let's have this discussion. Like, I haven't really considered that, but like, how many times, I'm just trying to think of what would be a scenario that it would change from eligible to not eligible in that amount of time. Because it's based on their sentence. It's based on how much supervised release time they have.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know that would change, and you can always change it back, I suspect.
So my
If
question
something
mark is
happens.
similar to Deb's though, but don't you put in the date, and it's the date of their release, right? And so the release date could change, and that happens quite frequently, but
Yeah, that's true. I suppose if they were at 367 days and their release date changes 3 days, they would no longer be eligible, I suspect.
I mean, if you enter it like when you accept the case and you have to put a date in there, and the date is say April 1st, and they don't actually get released because they end up in discipline and they get, say, 2 weeks of seg time or whatever, and now all of a sudden that date changes, so then that changes every review period for, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So in my head, I'm thinking we shouldn't enter until the day of their release.
Yeah, that makes
that's just
sense.
me.
That way I
Yeah.
didn't think about that. That's
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense to me, because otherwise you might be revising it, because otherwise all of those dates and those demonstration periods are going to be off just ever so
Right.
slightly, but yeah, they could be off. That's true. Yeah. That
Okay.
makes sense.
All right, that answered my question.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Demonstration period definition and purpose. Throughout supervision, the agent will monitor and review the accumulation of earned compliance credits through the module every 2 months, beginning the day of the client's release to community supervision. For example, if a client is released on May 8th, the initial review period would be May 8th through to July 8th. Subsequent review periods will end on the 8th day of every other month. This demonstration period is evaluated by the agent and serves as the basis for awarding, denying, or suspending earned compliance credits. So, and the agent will complete a file review for each eligible demonstration period based on the community adjustment, meaningful progress in case planning process, collateral contact review, and responsivity. So if this, they're doing well, right? And they're following their case plan roadmap, and they're cooperating effectively. If they're in violation status, obviously no. Or if they're, you know, if they're using or whatnot, then they don't get the credit.
Okay, I
Completed-
have a question.
Sure, of
Sorry, can I jump in?
course.
Okay. So let's say when they show up, they're participating in the road map, but we're really struggling to get them in. They're missing appointments. I mean, I would say that we wouldn't give them the ECC credit.
Yeah, it's a judgment call. Yeah, if they're not, I mean, if they're not doing the thing, we're not punishing them. We're just basically taking off time that they're actively on supervision, right? And so this isn't a punishment if they don't earn one. It's an earning. Like, you've done well this 2 months. Good job. You could be done earlier. But if they're not progressing, we're not going to just like, we're just going to give it to you anyway. And so pretty soon,
Right.
you know, that doesn't make any sense.
I just see that I see clients seeing it as a punishment, and then we're gonna start getting a lot of,
Yep.
I feel like supervisors are gonna get a lot of complaints.
There's an appeals process built in for it in there, so
Yeah,
There
that comes
is.
to us though, and then
Yeah.
we have,
There is, and I think it's gonna really matter how the agents talk about it. Like, are they gonna say, oh, we're gonna take this away, or are they gonna talk about it as earning? Like, and like, this is a pretty high bar, right? You have to be doing, like, if you're doing super duper good, if you meet all these bars, then you can earn some time off in the end. And if you talk about it that way, I think you're gonna have less complaints than if they don't have the conversation and it's like, no, you don't get it, or, you know. So I agree. So here's the ECCS is part of the Minnesota Rehabilitation and Reinvestment Act. As you know, this is a community supervision side where eligible supervised release clients can earn compliance credits for positive adjustment. Okay, and so one of the things that I want to point out here is, like, earn incentive release that's in the community, or excuse me, that's in the facility, is completely, like, think of it as like 2 completely separate programs, because you don't have to qualify for one to qualify for the other, and vice versa. So it's, if somebody's not earning or not eligible or didn't earn incentive release, they can still be eligible for ECCSA. And there might be situations where they don't qualify for earning time off their supervision, even though they did get out of the institution early. So I think this is like why are we doing this? The reason is outcomes, right? And so we're really trying to move towards building in risk needs responsivity into the work that we do, and really building in incentives, and you know, obviously less crime, fewer victims. Okay, so first we're next going to go through the handbook. This handbook was created to assist agents with navigating the tasks, so to speak, and with the supervising individuals who qualify for earning credits, supervision abatement. I don't know how this came about. I don't know if Tara brought it up or I brought it up early on. We're like, how do we like, this is like, make a handbook. And so we started down that road of making a handbook, which was, I think, a really good idea. And I want to just point out that Amanda Rubinek and Mary Girardi were rock stars in this whole process. There are other people involved, certainly. But I don't know, Tara, what your thoughts are, if we did, like, but they deserve a ton of credit for really going through it again, they basically wrote the whole damn thing. And Tara did a lot of work in her sections too. I did almost nothing. So
I wouldn't say that. And we planned this out and we kind of halted the big group. And then there's a smaller group of some CCA agents and then our DOC agents that went through chapter by chapter and we talked all of this stuff out. So everybody had a piece, they brought it in, and then we talked this through as we went in and made several adjustments. And then Mary did a ton of the formatting after we made the stuff. She would make it great for next time. So it was a lot of work, and I think it's going to be great for agents and for supervisors.
find the handbook. There it is. Okay, now I'll go back. Soup. All right, back on track. Okay, so next is all right, chapter 1, release planning for eligible clients. So if you look at the handbook, chapter 1, really has to do with the agent assignment and release plan. Obviously, you're going to follow 203.018, their agent assignment release planning policy. And then again, the caseworker will do the initial engagement with that incarcerated person, and then inform them of their eligibility or not. And then the agent assignment release planning, which plan will come to, the supervisor and the agent, and then do another review. So eligibility, they have to have less than 365 days in supervision, serving, those are not eligible are those have less than 365 days in supervision, serving life sentences, serving intermediate sentences for crimes committed on or before April 30th, 1980. Those are subject to good time, are in the community but remain in institutional status. So for example, if they're on CIP or work release, they can start earn compliance credit supervision, but not until they're off of institutional status or when their regular SRT date is up, right? So you can't earn both. And those who leave Minnesota are on interstate transfer. So there's some nuance with that, but basically if they're gonna go to another state, they have to abide by the other state's rules. So they have to choose to not earn time off their supervision. If they do come back from interstate, if they do have more than 365 days left when they come back, they can start at that time. Are convicted of others in other states who transfer to Minnesota for supervision on interstate transfer. So next really has to do with the MDT. And so as of October 25th of last year, we really changed the idea of that MDT. We took a look at it and said, you know what, why are we not asking caseworkers to set up even a simple meeting with anyone who's releasing? Like when I was a juvenile agent, we'd never not had a conversation before somebody released. And I know that a lot of agents are doing that. I know a lot of people in this room were did it when they were agents because I've talked to them about it, right? It's that is best practices. And so, but as it relates, so really everybody releasing is going to do some sort of, what they want to call it, staffing, we call it an MDT, whatever that is, or starting that engagement process as an agent. What's different about the MDT as it relates to MRRA is if they have, so this is where it does coincide with earned incentive release. So if they have done earned incentive release, they're going to have, they're going to be case planning in the institution. They're going to have their case plan. They'll be able to present that. And those MDTs that have earned incentive release, on the facility side or qualify for earned compliance credit supervision abatement, that incarcerated person is going to, they're going to have a little bit more on the agenda for that meeting. So that incarcerated person is going to lead part of that meeting, talk about what they did, what they accomplished, as well as on the community side. So what are the goals of that is to obviously the warm handle, like what have you had, really inform the agent of where they're at so that they can kind of start thinking about where they might want to go with case planning with them. And then of course for the agent to start that engagement. Hi, I'm so-and-so, and this is my job. This is what I expect out of you. What are your expectations out of me? And then this is what it's going to look like, those sorts of things. So any questions about that so far? Good. Okay. The introduction to case planning, we already did that. The response to the agent assignment, we talked about some of those administrative tasks with that. We're ready. I'm not an expert trainer in this, if you've figured that out by now, hopefully. Okay. So what to remember about release planning, eligibility, the eligibility criteria, we talked about that. The MDT process is done with all clients, but but there's some nuances with MRRA. Case planning, they're going to be case planning in some cases with MRRA. In some cases, they'll maybe have something done, or they'll have something to do even if they don't qualify for an incentive release. There's some administrative tasks that to set that case service in a certain way that that triggers that module. And then what we didn't talk about is victim notification. So those, it really comes down to those victims that are registered in Haven and express concerns. Will have their, we'll take into account what's going on with them. Holly.
Do you guys know the Haven registration? One of our agents mentioned that you can register as like an interested party, and they were wondering, will they receive the same notification as part of this process, or will it just go to victims? Do we know that by chance?
I have never heard of that before ever, so
I can reach out to Liz.
Okay.
Thank
And then you might get to this at some point, but one of the agents was kind of wondering about when we start to talk about this earned compliance credit, supervision abatement, like when we do the engagement process and we're explaining it to the client probably already knows somewhat, right? Because they've probably been talking with their caseworker about it.
They talk to each other. Everybody knows about it. Like
everybody knows about it. Yeah. Are we gonna do you think we'll create something like our grievance procedure that kind of outlines these points to cover with them and that they can have in writing themselves? Does that make sense? What I'm asking?
No, I'm not following you. So like a grievance
Okay.
procedure, like if they don't agree, like if they don't qualify, you mean, or
Nope.
if they
Nope.
don't
So
get a credit?
So yeah, so they're on it. And it talks about like the 2-month review period, and then it would talk about like the 14-day window to grieve something, or
You're talking about
appeal.
like just like a right to know sort of, these
Yeah.
are the things you might want to know about this.
Yeah.
We don't have anything right now, I don't think.
Okay.
That would be that down. I have somebody else asked for that too, I think.
Well, they can grieve our decision to deny it, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think our agents
no.
were asking if there was a document. Okay.
Yeah, they can grieve it after the third denial. So let's say it
Okay.
goes to you, Sam.
Oh, yeah,
um,
that's right.
Then it can go, then it
To
can
the
go to
MRR
MRA
people.
authority.
Yeah, okay. Just we showed your video to agents and those two questions came up. So,
Okay. So just so I understand, Holly, it's like it's just like something to like are we just getting started with this? I don't know it that well yet, and so I don't really know all the things to say, but just like almost like a script.
and I think they're used to us having, the grievance procedure, the Privacy Act statement. They're like, okay, what about this? This is huge, right? And shouldn't we be like giving the client something that kind of outlines it for us and for them so that make sure that we cover it all? And I'm like, and I don't want them to just hand the piece of paper to them and say like, here's,
No.
but I don't think that's going to happen. This process is set up so different than anything we've ever done before that, in a good way. Yeah.
Mhm. My first thoughts are I like the idea of the script and like why not? I don't know that I want to add another form to what they're doing because I mean it's not like it's just a month. So if they don't get an earn compliance credit, it's just one more time they have to see their agent. It's not the end. It's not like they're going back to prison or something. I just don't see it as being that big of a deal. And it really is like, you don't agree with me, then, then talk to my supervisor. And it really is that. I mean, it's no different than kind of what they're used to doing now. Like, I want to talk to your supervisor. Or am I thinking about this wrong? I just don't want to add like another form, I guess, to what they're already doing. I don't know.
I think ISR clients can't cash it in on ISR, but like, let's be real, we're dealing with some very antisocial people. So
Yeah.
Are they going to make an issue of it? Yes, they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I made a note
Yeah.
of this one too for us to circle back on, Carter.
Okay. Yeah. And we will go over a grievance procedure here and the appeals process and stuff in a bit here too. Trish?
So just a quick question on the victim stuff. I know this looks very different and I'm grateful for that. I like this edit.
Yeah.
Just wondering if agents are no longer now solely responsible for being the victim notification person, right? It's going to come through Haven, right?
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. You can thank Mark for that. He was the first one that raised it. I'm like, yeah, that's probably too far. So. All right. I have so many screens here. It's like, where am I at? Okay. Chapter 2, earn compliance credits and review and accumulation. Okay. So the agent will, at every 2 months in their message center, they'll get, you've got a review to do. They'll be able to click on that. It'll, you'll be able to go to your. There'll also be a tab. Probably already have it. Well, they have to have it now. That they can get into it in different ways. So choices are they earn the credit, they're denied the credit, or suspended the credit. And then once they make that selection, if it's either suspended or denied, they'll have to make a comment, earn, they don't. And all that'll be documented. It'll all be auto documented. And if it is, it'll document in a couple different ways. One of the ways is on a report, I think they call it. So let's say they started in one county and they transfer to another county. Like, how do we load this in here? Well, that'll be one of the documents that you can load up and send to the adjacent county or wherever they're going. And they can kind of pick up the ball from there. As well as, let's say there's a grievance or somebody wants to look at something, that's all that is, it's all documented in that way and kind of in one place. So it's actually, it's pretty easy for the agent to go in there and go I mean, literally it would take a minute to do it, if that, seconds. Suspended is kind of the question, like, do I deny or do I suspend, or what do we do? And so we'll go through some scenarios here in a bit, but earned compliance credit held in suspension if a client is being assessed for, on the waiting list for, or actively participating in programming or treatment. So that's the big thing. And so I think a lot of people are seeing this as like, oh, this is a punishment if they're, you know, they're not doing the thing yet, but they're trying to do it. It's like, well, not really. They're suspended, and so once they finish, it goes in the approved bucket. So it's just that those you don't want to approve them and then they never do it, and then you're in a situation where you have to go back. So yeah, so I think we already talked about this. Once every 2 months is complete, the agent will go into the module. The module automatically calculates their newest date and automatically calculates the next assessment period, demonstration period, and will also calculate and keep track of and remind the agent when they're eligible and getting close to that abatement time. Big thing is client notification. I had the question come up, like this, you know, how do we notify the client? Well, hopefully you're having conversations with them, and that's kind of the idea, is the agent will meet with the client either in person or virtually to explain the review determination for each demonstration period. What if, I think the question is what if there's multiple 2-month demonstration periods that have lapsed? I think I think it's in policy, or maybe it's just in here, that like at least do it once every 6 months, right? And so let's say you've got a situation where, yep, you're case planning, they're eligible for earned compliance credit, so you have to be case planning, but they're like super low risk. Like, okay, then maybe you're just meeting with them once every 6 months. Great. So then just approve 3 2-month demonstration periods every 6 months. Not ideal, but that is a way for them to earn that. And so, and you're not doing you know, they're not doing a ton of work with those folks either. So
Can you, trying to wrap my head around that, sorry.
yep.
So we meet with them every 6 months. We don't review them every 2 then?
Yep, ideally you're gonna meet with them every month. Let's say you're meeting with somebody every month. You're gonna be talking about, that's gonna be part of your conversation. It's like, you're doing well, you know, if you keep doing well, you're gonna, you know, we can put you on abatement status. But then like every 2 months, obviously, when those come up, it's like, okay, let's take a look at your last 2 months. Looks like you're doing pretty darn well. Or because you've been using, unfortunately you didn't earn it, but you know, this next month, you know, or these next 2 months, I think you're on track to do really well. So yeah, I mean, we should be reviewing ideally every 2 months, but there are those situations where you might not be meeting with somebody that often. So in those cases, and again, this is statewide, right? So this is a statewide policy. And in those cases, at least every 6 months you should be doing it. Does that help?
So at the 6-month mark, then we just give them credit for the last 3 check-in, like.
Correct. Yep.
But then will agents, like, dashboards be full of, you should have checked this guy 2 months ago?
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay. I just have some anal, which is a good thing. Like,
Yeah,
they keep
it
their,
is.
you know, they keep their stuff really clean, and they don't like anything being in their buckets.
Yep,
So,
right on.
okay,
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure. So
Yeah.
those individuals are freaking out.
We just needed a mechanism, because I think it came up early on. It's like, we don't, you know, some of these people we're not going to meet with every month or every other month. I'm like, okay, well, then don't, you know, we don't want, you know, if somebody's like super low risk, but still wants to be done early, you know, denied that ability to do so because of this. So that was the reason for that. Next has to do with the appeals process. If a client disagrees with the denial of an ECC, They may appeal the decision of the supervisor in writing within 14 days. The appeal must identify the demonstration period that it was, and then, the specific reasons, obviously, they're gonna have reasons. The supervisor will review the denial, rationale, and discuss the appeal with the agent before making a final decision, obviously. The supervisor respond to the appeal in writing, and then either affirm, amend, or reverse the decision within 14 days of getting it. And then the final decision can be documented in that module like pretty easily. So there's a process for that. And that all gets memorialized and documented it in that module, so that there's always a running total of what it's, if you want to go back, or if you're or whatnot, or if let's say it happens 3 times, 3 consecutive appeals, that MRA authority, you can look back and say, okay, this is what happened here, this is what happened here, this is what happened here, when the MRA authority reaches out to you, which hopefully isn't going to happen very often. Next is that if it's been denied the 3 consecutive appeals, they can appeal to the supervisor's denial of that appeal to the MRA authorities. So, and yeah, so that can all be documented there as well. So you can keep a running total of how that works. So, rescinding earned compliance credits. So we wanted a mechanism for like, oh, I gave them a credit during this 2-month period, but then later on I learned that they were stealing cars, or they shouldn't have earned it, and I didn't know it. I didn't have the information at that time, but now I do. You can go back and change that. It documents that change, and it also document a reason for their, like, didn't know, now I do. Transferring of clients, those eligible interstate transfer clients who have an approved transfer plan to another county intrastate will continue their eligibility status in the receiving county upon acceptance of the transfer. So the sending state will provide the ECC report, along with, when you send all your little reports with, and an updated summary of the client's case plan, progress, and engagement, and any additional information, obviously. So when they receive it, that OAS or whoever's doing that, check in will update those credits into the module, and then they just start from there. So. Okay, QA agents will be subject to supervisory audits and tracking of ECC after revocation. So for a client who is revoked while on active supervision, an earned compliance credit supervisionary abatement report is created by the agent. The report is distributed to the DOC's Central Office Records Department by email with the subject line stating earned compliance credit supervision abatement report. Record staff will upload the report into the client's electronic. I'm just reading this. I don't know if it's helpful. So
basically we wanted a centralized place for that information to be stored, because if somebody comes out again, we want the caseworker to be able to access that, or other agencies to access that if it's going from a CCA to DOC county or whatever. So this was the best mechanism we had for somebody in a central location to take that information and put it in their electronic file. I believe Kate already submitted I don't know what you call it, the document IDs or whatever they are for that, and a couple other things, so that they will have designated ECC SA or MRA documents in there for somebody to pull out.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of a pain in the ass. We're like, how are we going to do this, right? And so it's one thing if you're going to transfer a client to another agency, because we have CSTS, but CSTS doesn't like work well with the facilities and then back out. And so we needed a place to have it. And legally with the law, they don't lose any credits, right? And so even if they go in and then back out again, they still have those credits. They can't earn any more, but they still have those credits. So we need to keep track of the credits that they do have. So that was our mechanism to do that. And so that's, sorry, that's not automated or easier, but that's kind of what we came up with. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay.
So would that apply? I'm assuming that wouldn't apply if the credits have been suspended. Like then they just wouldn't get those credits, right?
Well, yeah, if you're going to send somebody back to prison at that time, you're going to probably deny the credits.
Right, okay. But then like ISR, we're not suspending the credits, so they would still get those credits if they went back.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, correct. Okay, all right. So next is just a little review here. The demonstration period. They have to be case planning. This is why a lot of the agencies said, no, we need to have until September 1st to start ours because we're not case planning. Client notifications, appeals, rescindings. Does anybody have any questions about any of these things? I could reiterate all this stuff, but if you leave a little more time for questions, then okay. Good. Okay, all right. We've all been waiting for a scenario. So you're reviewing Alex's most recent demonstration period and note that despite over a year of sobriety, he had a relapse reporting this demonstration period. Also during that time, Alex immediately called you and took necessary steps to overcome this relapse. Further, Alex has been actively case planning, working on the skill using self-control. You have been role-playing this skill in your office visits, and he has consistently used the skill in various life settings and documented his progress. Further, he has completed chemical dependency treatment and is active in his recovery community. Should Alex earn the credit? Should his credit be denied or suspended? Boy, already a discrepancy. Jenny, and 2 for earn, 1 for deny. Suspend. Okay. Good. So we would suggest earn. We went round and round with this. I was a little bit in the deny camp, quite honestly. But because in the handbook, it gives a scenario where if they are with minor slip-ups such as these, you may consult your supervisor. That's what it says to still apply the credit. In this case, Alex is working hard to overcome his addiction, to building the necessary skills. And so in this case, in these very limited 1 in 100 case, or suspended his balance, I'll let you know, that they can still earn it. So they are case planning, they're still moving forward. It was a slip up. They're very honest. They're open for like, how often is this going to happen? So it's more like a 1 in a million case, right? All right, scenario 2, you're reviewing Bridget's most recent demonstration period and note that she is adjusting well with her release and that she has gotten a job, stayed sober, and is doing well at her residence. During this last demonstration period, she had contact with a victim and was restructured. How would you, should Bridget earn the credit? Should it be denied or suspended? Yeah, good, denied. So the client is not complying with release conditions during this demonstration period, they should not earn the credit. So how would you, I'm just curious, how would you handle this conversation with Bridget if she was upset with the outcome?
That although
Ally,
she's got
Ally.
some positive things in place, she also had a slip up and had to be restructured. And although she didn't receive the credit for this period, moving forward, if she continues to work hard and work on her case plan with her agent, she will in the future continue to earn credit.
Awesome, thank you. Good. Does anybody have any questions about that? All right, scenario 3. You're reviewing Calvin's most recent demonstration period and note that he is doing everything that he can to comply with the condition of chemical dependency treatment. He has not yet started or completed the condition. He's been sober, involving himself in a sober support group and doing everything he can to comply, but he still hasn't completed that condition. That's one of his conditions. Should that credit be earned, denied, or suspended? Nobody wants to be the first one. Good. Very nice. Yep. So in those situations, if they're in chemical dependency treatment, BIP, or sex offender treatment, that would be suspended. Now they don't lose those, but at the end of when they get their little graduation ceremony or whatever, you can then apply them and they can earn those all at that time, or they can be put in that bucket. So good. All right.
Okay, question.
Yes.
I know this wasn't in the first scenario, and I don't like to be wrong. Let's say she was in chemical dependency treatment, even though she had a year's sobriety, she had to do it as a condition of her release. Outpatient, relapsed once, but was doing really, would we still just suspend that?
I don't think so. She's already suspended, right? So she's getting her credit suspended already. She's in treatment.
Okay,
I don't know, it's a judgment call, but I would
that
say
makes
both no.
sense. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, God, I got so many screens up. Terry, you've got chapter 3, correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. I'll flip to the next one here.
So, can everybody hear me okay? Hopefully. Chapter 3 is a pretty big chapter. It covers a lot of ground. When somebody is eligible to transfer from active supervision to supervision abatement, the agent must verify their eligibility and calculation of all the credits. For those individuals on ISR, they must reduce to standard SR for a period of 3 months before being eligible for abatement status review. So eligibility means an individual has been compliant, has demonstrated meaningful progress, is in good legal standing, and when the individual's case involved a victim, we recommend that the agent reaches out to them and solicits their input before finalizing any recommendations towards supervision abatement. An individual's transition to supervision abatement can be postponed or denied if there's a demonstrated public safety risk or they lack the time to stabilize or progress before expiration of their sentence. There are 5 standard supervision abatement conditions that will be imposed when somebody transfers onto abatement status. If the agent believes that there should be additional conditions on there, they can propose those conditions when they're talking to a hearing officer after they've consulted with their supervisor regarding any additional conditions being imposed. At the time of supervision abatement review with HRU, the agent will provide their justification for any additional conditions, receive verbal approval for SA conditions, and then move forward with that. I think that's it for that slide. Does anybody have any questions with that? So what I see that being is just like an agent would call in for a restructure when they're transferring. This kind of form is done the same way. They can have that conversation, the agent documents on their side, HRU documents on theirs, and then you go through the whole approval process like it would now. So moving to supervision abatement, what to remember. Eligibility to transition from active supervision to abatement status is a process. It involves careful review of their eligibility, their overall compliance, their progress, and factoring any victim feedback into it. Imposing more than the 5 provided conditions that are in policy requires supervisory approval and supported justification when you present that to HRU. Individuals presented with their conditions and must agree to the conditions before they transfer to inactive supervision. A documentation of this transition in CSTS includes updating the client file, ensuring up-to-date BCA registration, and including a transition summary chrono in CSTS. Someone's supervision abatement status can be postponed or denied if an agent assessment deems that person to be a public safety risk. If postponed, their status is reviewed at a minimum of every 2 months. Once they've addressed their risk factor, the agent can seek abatement approval. Additionally, individuals who wish to remain on supervision and not transition to supervision abatement they should be well documented by the agent. And someone can be denied supervision abatement if they have 6 months or less remaining, and they would not be able to stabilize prior to that date. And these cases should be staffed with you before that and well documented by the agents. Dispute resolution is available. If an individual does not agree with an agent's decision to graduate them to SA, there's a process that first involves going to the agent supervisor and lastly to the MRA authority. And then QA, agents should expect QA checks and support from MRA navigators, supervisory audits, and peer reviews to ensure consistency statewide. Jenny?
Hey, again, lots of questions. Does Victim Services have anything? I think agents are going to struggle the most with speaking to victims if we have contact information still available to us. But just speaking to victims that are really against this, especially like sexual assault. And if a victim is completely adamant that they do not agree with supervision abatement, I'm assuming that does not disqualify them from that. And how do we best kind of explain that to victims? I think that's where agents are feeling the most kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, Carter, you can help me out with this one because I know that
Yeah.
we talked about this with Liz too, and there are certain people that are in victim services that can help some of these processes along that will help, and they'll do some of that outreach in certain circumstances. And I think that they're going to try to do a good job within some of their forms that they have to weed some of that stuff out when they register for that stuff and sending out those notifications. The problem that we think that why we want that communication to come from the agents too, like even though those things will be, some of those processes are automated through, different stages, there's a delay in the automation between when it gets entered and when that stuff goes out, obviously. So the MRA statute requires the contact. Carter, you may have a better idea of like how they communicate that didn't come up a lot in our meetings and how that should happen.
Yeah, it really hinges upon that. The victims taking initiative to and being on that Haven system. And then we took out the onus on the agents to call. It really has to do with if agents generally are going to know if they're communicating with the victim or not, right? It doesn't require that the agent reach out. They've never had contact with the victim, don't know where the victim's at. It doesn't require that they do that. The onus really is on the victim, and then it's that Haven system. But the idea is that if you have contact with that victim and are work, there's a back and forth and you're getting information that factor into maybe the conditions, maybe if there's a special condition that needs to be put on that supervision abatement, that you have justification to do so. But I don't think agents shouldn't be calling the victims and saying they're up for abatement. Do you agree with this or not? Because they don't have that. They don't have veto power to do that. It's not part of the law. It's not part of the system. They can't, like, they shouldn't be promised that because it's just not true. What they can do is what they do have control over. Like they've, Billy Bob has earned the ability to go on abatement status that looks like kind of unsupervised probation at this rate. I just wanted to, if they have that, if they have that relationship with the victim, it's like, I just want to know what your thoughts are about best how to protect you, and your thoughts about, if there's anything that I should know at this time. It's
Being heard.
yeah, it's kind of tough because it's not like, because victims are going to want to, you're right, victims are going to want to say, like, I don't agree with this. I don't think they should go. It's like, well, it's not something that I have control over, right? It's not something that I have to do. It is in the law. They have earned it. This is the stage that they're at. But there are some things that you do have control over, right? And so if I have information that can help, if I have information that I don't know, it can help me make some decisions about, conditions, or, where, if there's anything specific that we can communicate about to make sure that you're safe and that you're feeling like you're part of this. So it's not a good answer, but that's kind of where it's at. So, Holly?
I think mine will be easy compared to the victim input section. So it's the transition summary. One thing is, can we get a template in CSTS in the chrono section? Like, we have a discharge chrono summary, annual progress report chrono summary. Can we get a transition summary for supervision abatement with the different headings that you want agents to touch on?
Could we just do a transition, like like you would with any other transition? I'm just trying to keep it.
Do you want to so that's my next question is, in one part of the handbook, it's called a transfer summary, and in another one, it's called a transition summary. They're the same thing, I assume, but do we want to call it a transfer or a transition? And
that came up, that wording went in there based on our transition worksheet and our transition that we're already doing. So yeah, so they could just do a transition worksheet like they would with anything else that we're asking them to do. So it really doesn't change the way that they're doing their work, if that makes sense. You look like that's not the right answer. You want something in there, I'm reading that. So you want something in there like they have a qualified for supervision abatement because of these factors, and to kind of document. Is that what you're saying?
Well, because that's what we're saying to do, right? Is to chrono that they've been approved and are moving from.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
So then there's a chrono in there that lists like offense specific, client stability factors, progress towards case plan, like those headings that you want them to write about. It just prompts them to do that. Does that make sense to anyone else? Am I wording that right?
Makes sense to me. I'm just wondering if they would think to do that or know that it's even there. I'm just wondering how complicated we want to make this.
Well, because we do a discharge chrono on all supervised release clients now.
Mhm.
And so I think that, especially when we're saying complete a transition summary, like if we can just pick a chrono that does that, or we're just making the agent create their own and labeling it something else, transfer summary or transition summary. I don't know. I don't think it's a make it or break it. I just think it would be nice if there was a template in there that they from that drop down menu that has those things right there. And then they just add the narrative behind it.
Others' thoughts or opinions on that?
I
Love
think that
it.
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we should be able to do that. I don't see why not. Okay, Brad?
Yeah, I think I'm hoping and thinking I might be looking at an old handbook, but on page 13, and I know Trish, you had brought this up a while back too, but it says active supervision cases involving a victim requires the agent to make diligent and thorough consideration for victim impact of SA regardless of Haven registration status. Is that old
Yeah,
language? Okay, all right, fair enough. Good.
yeah.
It's the current handbook, but you're updating it after other stuff.
Yep.
So it wouldn't be, nothing's changed in there yet.
No.
I got you.
Yeah, we're just gonna make, there's 3 spots where it talks about victims. I think it was Trish and Mark that may have brought that up, and it's like it kind of contradicts itself in a couple different places, and so we just made that more congruent. So it's in this current handbook wrong, but it's the one that we've corrected. I think I've made some changes. So
Can we go to the next one?
but, oh shoot, there we go.
I think chapter 4 is a 1-pager, so it's pretty small in regard to things to cover for it. But an intrastate transfer is not required unless the supervising agent can clearly articulate reasons why the client should be transferred. Examples of valid requests include local residency restrictions, predatory offender registration, or community meeting requirements, and active no contact orders. So that's regarding the second one. Travel permits, it's limited to domestic travel and must be pre-approved. And then if you're going to do the interstate transfer, you just follow the normal policy and procedure in 201.021. That one's pretty short. Does anybody have any questions? Yep, Kelly?
Not really a question, but if there's meeting notification, then they're a level 3 and they shouldn't be off of ISR. So that it's kind of a non-issue, right?
We get
Right,
some
yeah.
level 3 PORs. Like if they have just a failing to register offense.
They should go on ISR. If it's a probation case, you might get them, but this doesn't apply to probation.
Mhm.
We should have level 3 failure to registers.
Does somebody have a failure to register that's a level 3 on regular SR?
They're lifetime ISR now, right? Level 3s.
Yeah, level 3s are like, as long as they're on.
As long as they're on,
supervision.
sorry.
Yeah, they're
Lifetime
on
was a
ISR.
poor word I used, yeah.
Yeah, I think Kelly's right. I think the 2 that I was thinking about are actually probation cases now that she says that.
Next chapter. Chapter 5 deals with the violations and investigations during supervision abatement. Individual has an abatement condition that requires cooperation with any investigations. So if an agent learns that there's violation behavior, they can investigate, they'll start investigating the matter to determine if a violation occurred. They have those 5 conditions. Unlike other individuals on SR, pre-hearing worksheets are not required to determine the proper course of action. However, conditions are still assigned severity levels in the handbook that prompt dispositional guidance, absent any public safety concerns or aggravating factors that are identified by the agent. Depending on the condition violated, the agent can either take no action, offer an individual a restructure back to active supervision, conduct an out of custody hearing, or issue a warrant and request re-imprisonment or detention. Victims should be provided agent notification of any change to an individual's supervision or custody status. For example, if they're revoked, evictions should be made aware of those decisions. I'm guessing that the Haven would also account for some of that community notification. So I think the biggest thing to take away from this chapter that's out of the ordinary for a lot of you guys who have SR or ISR experience is that now there's going to be a process for out of custody hearings. I don't foresee this being like a huge thing that's going to happen all of the time. However, if somebody does have a violation and they deny or do not refuse the restructure and go to active supervision, if they have a low enough severity level and there's no public safety risk, that hearing can occur with the individual still in the community. The hearing would be conducted the same way over Zoom. They would receive notification of that through either email or can call in on a phone to be present for that. If a hearing officer chooses to revoke, a warrant would be issued and they'd be taken into custody and returned to the facility. The logistics on all of that stuff is still being worked out, I think, with scheduling and stuff, but I see that they wanted to have the hearing. The loss of liberty for an out of custody person is not the same as somebody who's in jail, so it doesn't require the same deadlines for things to happen. They would be kind of scheduled for those of you who are familiar with when you have a violation of somebody who's at MSOP, when that violation occurs, how they get scheduled down the road or whatever they get put on a hearing calendar. Those things would happen just the same, and they would be giving a hearing date and time to have that hearing out of custody. I see there being situations if somebody's violating and you're wanting to take them to a hearing, there's probably going to be some aggravating factors that are present that would, facilitate issuance of a warrant. But obviously this will come up at some point and we'll have to work out the kinks when it does. But there's a process in place that they're trying to, with scheduling, figure out for all of that stuff. Does anybody have any questions for that?
Can I ask a super stupid question? So I see no action is under both. Is that intentional? Like, we could theoretically just, even though if there was a violation, just be like, whatever.
I suppose you could. It depends. I suppose. I think like in the grand scheme of things, if somebody violated and the violation is substantiated through your investigation, I would think that most agents would want to move that person back onto active supervision, depending on what the violation is, for continued supervision.
Yeah,
And I'd
that was
see
kind of
that
my
be-
thought, right? Like, it seems like at the very least, it's like something is happening and it's substantiated that.
If it's substantiated, that's what you do. If it's a major violation and it's unsubstantiated, obviously you take no action for it and resume the person on
Oh, that makes more sense. 'Cause
supervision.
it's like, they did something. It's like, we might want to meet more often, or I don't know.
Right. That's what we have. That's our product, I guess.
Yep, so this is about opportunity, not entitlement. There's a requirement to communicate and document, obviously, and the agent is the gatekeeper, skill builder, and coach all in one, like we have been for years. The handbook, which is continually under construction and probably will be updated before September 1st. But what we put in the chat, I think, is kind of the latest where it's at. It is not necessarily the final. So what we've given out to really everybody else was the one that was sent like in September of last year, maybe. And then CSTS is there to support and track and help with calculations and remind and whatnot. So that's kind of it for us. What we did the last time is we had Ryan Kavanaugh that went through the technical pieces of it, but I don't think it's going to be any different than the video. So we chose not to have that. So I didn't think we'd have enough time, which we might have. Brian?
Just a quick question for you, Carter. So would these be considered an early discharge case in all things considered of supervision? And the reason why I asked that.
No. You mean like counted? They'd be counted.
Okay, so if we do an early discharge or through this process, does funding stop for those or does it go till expiration?
Well, this goes to this doesn't change the expiration, so that they'll stay
Right.
on. This is technically active supervision.
Okay.
You know, so it's just that we're not seeing them, so that it doesn't move. We don't
Perfect.
discharge anybody. Yep. So we
Okay.
get counted for it. Right
Perfect.
now, if we were to count it, like it would get counted the same. After the workload study and the decisions that we make for the next way that we figure out how community supervision is funded, I don't really know, but I mean, you're gonna get, you know, perhaps it moves to a situation where low risk gets less money than high risk or something like that, but it would be counted, for something anyway, but yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. As long as we're thinking about questions, I'm just trying to think about how to structure this chrono, and maybe if after this, if we have some time, maybe Holly and Melissa would just stay on for a second. But I have a couple questions. The name of the chrono would be ECCSA Transition Summary. Is that, I'm just trying to think of like how to not get it lost in all the other damn chronos that we have. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. And then like, I was just gonna list all the factors or all the pertinent information that it asks for. And
Took that out of the handbook.
yeah, I'll just take it. I'll just put it, we just put that right into the chrono. Like, I don't see why not, but I'm just thinking about like putting all that up top instead of like each section, and then they can just write a chrono. I wouldn't want them to have to go to each offense specifics and then client stability factors and then, or do you think that we want them to do that?
I don't know that. I mean, maybe they'll find their own style of how they do it. Cause I mean, when you do the step office structure chrono, you go to each section. Discharge chrono or transfer chrono, it might be just a narrative paragraph. I think everybody kind of has their own way of doing it.
Okay.
I think it's just trying to make sure all that information is in there, how it gets in there. I don't necessarily care, but
Okay.
does that make, what do your guys, I mean, what do others think?
Can I ask a question, Carter, about this, in terms of like what the expectations are and output? Because I'm just wondering, like, to Holly's point, like if it's in a paragraph form, is there any, I mean, I guess it depends on what it's used for. It doesn't really matter, you know, as long as it's kind of there. I just didn't know if it's like there needs to be some double check to be like, yes, they double check special conditions approved for SA.
Yes. So what I could see is this going into the module. The original intent was for this to actually go into the module and be documented, because there is some legislative reporting that asks for, like, if somebody didn't get supervision abatement or was denied supervision abatement, what are the reasons why? And so when we had Bureau of Justice Assistance money, and I like asked, well, had wrote the request and had STI working on it, that this was kind of going to be part of that module, but we got that federal funds. Those federal funds were taken away midstream in there, and so we actually footed the bill to create this out of our own funds. And so we just cut it short because we had to cut it at the end of the fiscal year. So a long-winded way of saying we're going to fire up for the next release to make the module more robust a little bit more. So, so some of these things can be documented right in the module and be auto-chronoed. So this would actually be my thought is like this should be in the module, so that this could be for legislative reporting reasons that are required now, so we don't have to do it. But it's not there right now. So we'll create this. If anybody has anything, but I don't know if Melissa and Holly or anybody else wants to stay, I'm just going to put this up on the screen and we'll just have Melissa create it. That works.
Yep.
So does anybody have anything else before we go? Otherwise, we're about a half hour early, which is
I just have a question
we-
for you and I can stay later too, if that's okay, just
Okay.
before you guys chat.
Kelly?
Are we doing topics too?
Oh, yeah,
Is
we
that-
can. That's
Okay,
why
well, I
asked,
just
yeah.
have one thing.
Okay.
I had some communication with, the grants guy. What is his name? The SO treatment grants guy. What is his name?
Oh,
Someone-
Tim?
Tim
Tim
Schrupp.
Schrupp, thank you. Yes, I had some communication with him about one of our guys, and he mentioned that they're seeing more and more issues with insurance denying all kinds of different things, sex offender related. So the grants have been trying to pick up some of that, but he's very concerned. I don't know if this is on anybody's radar, but I see this becoming an issue, especially with our high risk guys that we're trying to get into more intensive treatment. You know, like we were talking specifically about Alpha, but you know, we have guys that are going to like day treatment type of programs, and I don't know if there's an answer to it or what, but I just wanted to put it on people's radar if it's not already there.
That's the first I've kind of heard of that, I guess. I haven't heard that from the RICN unit, but
Yeah, he's very concerned about it, so obviously the grant money there's only so much of that, so it
then
can't
there's.
it
yeah,
can't
there's-
fill the need for, if, you know, and I'm sure, I think it has to do with all of the fraud that insurance is now denying more. I get that, but it's going to impact our sex offenders.
Yeah, it could be, and then, and you know, in our grants, all those grants got cut back with the last, you know, biennium trying to save some funds too, so. I don't see a big pile of cash to make, you know, to fill that up more, but that's just speculation, so we do need to do something with those folks before, so. Anything else? Willie?
One of our, like the Human Services, Social Services Director in Benton County has asked me, and I emailed Deb this morning, asked me to take on the whole process for like managing placements for correction juveniles, like from start to finish, instead of involving them. I'm wondering, does anybody else do that? In all my other areas, social services does that and is involved. I'm just wondering if there are other of you that are handling all of that.
It
Steer
would be a
clear.
terrible idea, Willie. Terrible,
I
terrible,
agree.
terrible.
Yeah.
And the only,
No,
here's
do
the,
it.
here's the rationale. It's like the SSIS system that reports on juvenile stuff and 4E funding and all of the MA that gets opened, that would be a disaster for us.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Good. I'm
Do
glad
not
that
touch that.
I told her I would check with others, and I'm glad I can go back and say nobody's doing it, so we can't do it. Okay.
Well, and Tricia's right. And to be honest, they've been trying to do that in Benton for a long time to try to wash their hands, because then the next move is you're gonna get all the truants. So you start that, you're going down the road for all the truants as well. And part of the thing is, as DHS has more and more requirements with less money, it'll get pushed to you to have to budget all of that. And
I just
No.
think the MA alone is
Yes.
a deal breaker, like, because every kid that you put in placement, you're gonna have to open MA on, and like, we don't have any understanding of all of those processes. And that's what they do behind the scenes for us, you know, what I offered to Beltrami, because they tried to push that on us a while back too, is tell me what forms you want us to fill out. We'll do our best to fill them out as best as we can. We'll contact parents to get in touch with you, like all of those things, as long as they do the computer work and the SSIS work with DHS.
Well,
We
and right
just
now,
don't have that.
And right now, Benton you're responsible for the detentions. They don't cover any of that unless it's a program. So I'd stay so clear of that. They're just
I
trying to
think it's-
hand it down.
I think
They're
it's less
testing you,
about the
Willie.
money. It's more about they don't want to do the work, the other stuff. So
Yes.
Deb said no for years. They're seeing what you're gonna say.
Yeah,
for sure, without a doubt.
New fish.
without a doubt.
That's true. I mean, why not try it? But I wouldn't. Nightmare, nightmare.
All right. Anything else? What else? I did, with the urging of some folks, put in for an APPA and to highlight this group's work in building a case planning practice model and coaching model and everything around it. So I submitted that yesterday, I think. So hopefully we'll get accepted for that presentation in Chicago for August. So it was really cool that we were approached by not just one person, but several to say, you should probably take this on the road and let people know the work that you're doing. So Mark, you can just come off of mute.
I just want to say a huge thanks to Jen and Missy. They've been so awesome in this cast transition, not only putting up with me, but listening to the dipshit on the other side. So, and helping them out and acting like you care. Thank you guys. You sure you want me off mute? You asked for it.
Go back on mute.
Carter, you never learn. I just want to say to Missy and to Jen too, like, I know how ways to work with Smith, and that's a huge compliment he just gave you because he's a lot some days. Tell me about it.
I know, I was gonna say that. But what if?
He just wants to say fuck it all, and you guys held him to task. Good job.
Many years of learning.
It always was prefaced by, well, I won't say it that way. Okay, that would be great.
All right. Thanks everybody for everything you do. If you want to stay on and create that chrono, it'll take us just a few minutes, I think. But well, you can hop off otherwise. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. Take care.
Did you already stop recording, Kelly, or did you want to stop?
I can say a lot of inappropriate things before you stop if you want me to.
You were muted, Kelly, if you were responding.
Oh, do we not want to record the chrono creation you were just talking about?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
I'm sure it'll be amazing, but I don't know if we need it to be recorded.
Yeah, I don't think anybody cares.